Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're back on our everyday streak, day number 4, video number 4. Let's go, let's get this going. Today we're going to be talking about a team that I have, similarly to Seoul Dynasty, I have an unpopular opinion about. I have a hot take about them, but it's not necessarily a wrong hot take, is what I've been told when I talk to other people. My hot take is that Toronto is better than Florida. So today we're going to be talking about Toronto Defiant, and I'm going to be explaining why I think how I do about them. The Toronto Defiant have never had a good season. They're coming into their 3rd season and have not had a single good season. They've consistently had poor performances, and coming into this year, many have written them off as a middle-of-the-pack team, middle-of-the-pack NA, which I understand. It's understandable. The calibre of play this year has gone up so much that it's difficult to even put them high up. But what I think is these guys should be in that upper bubble of North America. By upper bubble, I mean like top 5. You know, you have a few teams. You've got like Shock up there, Gladiators up there, Washington up there. And I think Toronto should be considered one of those teams. I really think they have a chance to make it far, make it to the finals in at least one of the tournaments. Because this roster, I think, is too good to pass up on. You know, the KDG, the coach, is incredible, and players seem very good from a pre-season perspective. So going through the roster, we start off with Logix. A bit of an odd pick. Many people consider this guy washed. I get where they're coming from, but I still think a bit differently. While I think this team is going to try and not run Logix, I feel like in a Tracer meta, Logix is going to be the one they have to go to, especially in double hit scan, if Hisu can't play it either. But the thing I think about that, I don't think that's too bad. On last year's Toronto roster, he's probably the 2nd best player after Kariv, in my opinion that is. And unlike Beast, who I'll talk about next, I do actually see a role for Logix on this team. He's going to be coming in on the Tracer mostly, possibly the McCree, because we haven't seen much of that from Hisu, but I doubt it. But I do think we'll just see him for a Tracer, in a Tracer meta or a double hit scan meta. And I think he'll be able to hold his own. If they have to go up against another top team in a Tracer meta, I don't think he's going to get rolled. I think he'll be able to do what he needs to do, and that's it. That being said, looking at this roster, he is definitely one of the worst players on this. He could definitely be a weak spot, but I don't think he is going to be as much of a weak spot as people are saying. Now Beast, he's got a bit of a different story. Just visible confusion from me. They dropped this guy along with the rest of the roster at the start of the off-season, and then picked him back up. Toronto has Sado. Toronto has Sado. When is Beast going to play? Is Toronto, like, predicting some sort of a Winston Ryan meta? Because if that's the case, then sure, keep Beast on your roster. But we haven't seen a Winston Ryan meta, and I still don't think we will see a Winston Ryan meta. It's just confusing to me. Sure, they might have him as a backup for Sado, if Sado gets sick or doesn't want to play. But he's never going to start over Sado. If Sado's ready to play, Sado's going to play. No matter what the tank. People might be saying, oh, Beast is going to be a Ryan specialist. Beast's Ryan is nowhere near Sado's Ryan. I'm sorry, but it's true. Sure, Beast's Ryan is his best hero. But that doesn't mean that it's better than Sado's Ryan. Sado's Ryan is not his best hero, but it's still better than Beast's. So I'm just confused as to why they've got this guy. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it can't do any harm from a ranking position. Next up, Aztac. Aztac comes from WGS Phoenix, and he looked very good. I do imagine Lastro is going to be starting over him, but Aztac, in those double flex support metas, Aztac is he's going to step up and he's going to perform, I'm telling you. Aztac has achieved great things, and being in the Overwatch League, he's just going to achieve more. I don't think I see a world in which Aztac just flops and can't do anything. He seems like a solid pick that is not going to mess up. Similar to Lastro. Lastro is a great flex support. He found so much success on a budget roster. So now just imagine how he's going to do with a properly supported team. This team on double flex support does look killer. And I think if we see Toronto finding great success, it will be running both Lastro and Aztec. But Lastro, we can imagine, is going to be the starter, full-time starter. He did very well last year, impressed everyone, surpassed everyone's expectations. And on this team, he should only do better. Once again, I don't see Lastro flopping. I don't see a world in which Lastro doesn't reach the potential that we know he has. Then we've got Ansoon J. Coming in from Element Mystic, I think he'll be able to hold his own on this roster. You're not looking at this guy to make plays for you. You've got other people on the roster for that. You've got Sado on the roster for that. You've got Lastra on the roster for that. Like, you don't want this guy to be doing anything flashy. You don't want this guy to be going out of his way to find the kills, make the plays. You just want him to be solid. You want him to be there. You want him to be backing up the true stars of this roster, which I think he'll be able to do. Alright, Sado. Sado is a very big pickup for this team. He was a top 3 main tank last year easily, on every main tank. And what's also so great about Sado is I could waffle on about how much of a good player he is, but we all know that. Last year he was incredible, we all know that. But something I want to mention is that KDG came to this roster, and now Sado gets to continue playing under KDG, which is a big thing for Sado. Sado found his success last year largely because of KDG coming into that Philadelphia roster and helping Sado. Sado got the support he needed, and then we could really see the true heights that Sado can reach, which we hadn't seen in the 2 years before. Okay, next we're going to talk about the other player that's coming from Fusion, Hisu. In my opinion, this guy was the most underrated part of Philly's roster last year. He filled the holes when Carpe couldn't, but not only filled these holes, improved them. His Widow was phenomenal. This may sound like exaggeration, but it was one of the best in the league in Season 3. His Ashe was superb as well. I do have some reservations though. We haven't seen much of Hisu's McCree or Tracer. Maybe this is what Logix is here for, but ideally you don't want to have to run Logix. If it does turn out that Hisu has a solid McCree and Tracer, you're sitting comfortably, and this guy is going to be a huge part of the success that I'm predicting for Toronto next year. I think he will have a good McCree. I think Tracer is more of a question mark. Tracer plays differently to more of the traditional hit scans that we saw Hisu playing last year. We always saw Carpe on the Tracer. We never really saw Hisu on the Tracer. That is a bit of a concern, but I do think Hisu has the Tracer. I think even if he doesn't have the Tracer, I think he'll be able to pick up the Tracer. He seems like he'll really be able to work towards getting the best at something. I feel like we saw that with his Ashe when he was given the opportunity to play Ashe over Carpe. I think we really saw Hisu step up there, and I think he'll do the same with McCree and Tracer. Then we've got Michelle. Coming from the Seoul Dynasty, we haven't seen this guy play for an entire year. Last time we saw him in Season 2. But back then, he did look very good. He and Marvel really helped the Season 2 roster get to the playoffs, get where they were, make the improvements that they needed. Michelle was a big part of that. But you have to think, Michelle was benched this year over a main tank player playing off tank. Was this coaches being ridiculous, or was it Michelle not playing at the level we once knew he could? Was it Michelle absolutely flunking and feeding and messing up? Or were the coaches just going crazy? I think it's the latter, but we don't really know. We don't know what goes on inside the coaches' brains, and it could be an indication that Michelle really isn't what he was in Season 2. Finally, we've got Nast. He's coming from the Contenders team T1, and he looked mediocre. This guy very well could be a weak point of the team, and he'll need to step up if he wants to reach Hisu's level. If you're going to have this guy playing alongside Hisu, he really needs to up his game from what we've seen. I'm not saying he's bad. I think he will be consistent, but I do think he is going to be a weak point of the team, other than Beast and Logix. If on day 1 this guy's playing alongside Hisu and we don't see the levels of success that you really need this team to have from him for them to go far, it doesn't look good for the rest of the season. Because if Nas doesn't do well, you're looking at Hisu having to play with Logix, which you really don't want. I did hype up Logix and say people talking about him are being too harsh on him. I praised him, but you still don't want to have to run him. You still don't want to have to play Logix. You know, you want to have that projectile, you want to have that flex that can play the stuff you need. You only want Logix for a double hit scan meta, if that. The coaching for this team is a very big part. KDG coming in from Fusion, bringing along with him Hisu and Sado. That is a very important move for this team. I think the coaching is what's going to separate this team from middle of the pack teams in NA. I think more specifically the coaching is what's going to put them a step above Florida. It's still a big question mark though. Lots of these guys are unproven, you know. Aztac, Ansun J, Nast. You've got Michelle, who we haven't seen for a year, and it could go downhill. But I'm putting my money on these guys finding success under KDG. I don't see a way that KDG makes these players worse. And these players are already good. So if these guys just keep playing at the level that we know or we think that they can play, then they have to be considered to be an upper team in North America. In conclusion, I once again think this team is underrated. Competition has gone up a ton, and I understand why they could be middle of the pack. I just think this team has too much potential to not be in that upper bubble of North America. And Florida Mayhem, I think, will be a good level for Toronto to compete with. Thanks so much for watching all the video again, it means a lot. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, follow. Look in the description for my Twitch and my Discord. Join them if you like, it's fun time, you know. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.